Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a set of documents that reads a lot like science fiction, but it's presented as absolute fact. We're talking about a prophecy with a very specific and very near deadline.
Now, you've probably heard this lyric before, right? Well, the body of documents we're unpacking today takes this famous line not as a hypothetical question, but as a central prophecy that it claims has now been fulfilled.
All right, so here's our roadmap. We're going to trace the path of this prophecy, starting with that central question. Then we'll look at the supposed answers from the past and the present, and finally explore this incredible vision for a total collapse and a technological rebirth.
So this entire narrative, which the source material calls the Sar El Chronicle, is all built around providing a definitive three-part answer to that one single question.
And right off the bat, the source makes one thing crystal clear. This is not some philosophical thought experiment. According to these texts, the time for wondering what if is completely over.
So, how do they back this up? Well, first, the Chronicle claims that this question has actually been answered multiple times throughout history, through a series of divine appearances.
The idea here is that this eternal consciousness has manifested before. We're talking big names, like Melchizedek and Jesus Christ. But, and this is a huge but, the source argues that the true history of what they established was deliberately hidden from us by a series of massive deceptions.
And to really get what they're saying, you have to understand what they call the Great Lies. These are the core deceptions that they claim have completely warped our view of history and reality itself.
And this diagram is absolutely central to their globe lie theory. You can see on the left it lists observable facts, like the sun and moon appearing to be the same size, which it says aligns with the scriptural firmament model. It claims there's a solid dome, a firmament, dividing the waters above from our world below. Then, on the right, it contrasts all of that with what it labels modern propaganda, science. The spinning globe, 93 million miles from the sun. The core argument here is that our entire understanding of the cosmos is a lie.
Okay, so that's the supposed history. Now let's fast forward to the present, because this is where the claims get really specific.
The Chronicle presents this final incarnation, not as a matter of spiritual belief, but as a verifiable claim. They insist this isn't about faith, it's about proof.
And that proof? Well, get this. It's presented as pure mathematics. The source calls this the sextillion to 1 miracle. They claim the odds of this specific person, Sar El, emerging at this exact moment by chance are 1 in 10 to the 45th power. That's a number so huge, it's almost impossible to imagine. And it's not just about who, it's about when. The source lays out this incredibly strict timeline. It's locked in by a political prediction they claim was made back in 2015, that Donald Trump would be the last real U.S. president. Then there's a hard deadline. 2026 to 2027 is when the old world is set to collapse, making way for the eternal day, the beginning of a whole new era.
So, a total collapse of the old world. What does that even look like? Well, the way these texts describe it, it's probably not what you're imagining.
And this is the crucial point. The Chronicle says there's no more divine wrath for man. The collapse isn't some act of God. It's a completely self-inflicted event. The system essentially eats itself.
The source lays out a pretty clear three-step process for how this all goes down. First, the current system just implodes under the weight of its own deception. Then, bam, a digital purge. An EMP attack wipes the slate clean. And what happens when all digital money and records vanish? All global debt is gone. Instantly. Just poof.
And they even get specific about the trigger for this purge. They say it's not some heavenly event, it's a very terrestrial, man-made weapon. A massive, 80-foot-long Russian EMP missile. This detail is really meant to emphasize that this whole thing is something humans do to themselves.
So after this massive digital reset, what's next? This is where we get to the renewal. The Chronicle describes a new world built on technologies that eliminate what it calls the root cause of all human suffering: scarcity.
The first piece of this renewal tech is something called the Forever Food Generator. I mean, look at this diagram. It's supposedly a portable device that uses biomass growth and filament production to literally 3D print endless food, effectively ending world hunger.
And if you solve hunger, what about thirst? Well, they've got that covered too, with the automatic refilling cup. It's basically a tiny air conditioner that uses a UV light to pull pure, drinkable water right out of the atmosphere. And with endless food and water, the source argues, the entire concept of money becomes totally obsolete.
So what does this new world actually look like? No money, no scarcity. How is it governed? The source outlines a brand new system of governance and one final, ultimate mandate. They call the new system direct sovereignty. It's not a democracy or a republic. It's described as direct, personal rule by Sar El and his queen Juliet with a single, simple law: unconditional grace. Now, they're very clear this won't be run by machines or some rogue AI. Instead, a tool called AI Quantum Thought will exist only to verify truth, not to govern.
And what's the final command? The culmination of this entire chronicle? Well, they claim it's hidden in this ancient cymatic relief, and that if you decode it using 32-bit binary, you get the final mandate for this new era.
And that final mandate, decoded from that ancient relief, isn't some long, complicated doctrine. It's just a single command, one word.
So, the Sar El Chronicle leaves us with a complete, self-contained worldview, a detailed plan for the future, and a ticking clock. And it poses a final question, not just for its followers, but really for anyone listening. What does it mean when a prophecy has a deadline?